night. He had that productive game 3, 15 points, 7 rebounds, but he has been in an offensive drought going back to the series against Chicago.
But I think the bigger concern for Flip Saunders is at the defensive end on those perimeter screen and rolls, because Webber just no longer has the foot speed to really get out and contain perimeter guys, especially someone like LeBron James.
And when Detroit made their push the other night, it was actually with Max Seal and McDyess in the game at that time.
Dice providing a lift in the third quarter.
Get a stop! Play that defense!
Ilgauskas backing Webber. And coming up short with that hook. Webber with a series of fakes, and the pass could not be handled. Too strong. David Jones setting up for 3. Rebounded by Wallace. David Jones with much time. Mike Brown likes to say he had a cup of coffee and a donut. Here's Webber. 35-27 Detroit.
It looks like Mike Brown's going to get a timeout. I think this is a scary little moment here for Cleveland, because with LeBron on the bench, it's going to be very tough for this club to put up points. And then at the other end, Detroit playing awfully well offensively tonight. Here's a little move from Billups, a nice feed to Webber, and Detroit with the 8-point lead.
Country dated 3 straight championships, 89 through 91, each of them on the floor here at the Palace. And he says he looks at this as a last chance to win a title, although he feels retirement is still a couple of years away. He's never played in the NBA Finals. He's been in the conference finals. That was once back in 2002 when his Sacramento Kings lost in Game 7 in overtime to the Lakers.
Let's see what Cleveland gets out of this timeout, and let's see if Flip Saunders go to a zone so that they can't run the play. Maybe they just call. But Steve, I'm with you right now. A little danger time for Cleveland. Detroit's really trying to make a push here going into halftime with a nice lead.
Here's Gibson. Draws the foul. He went at Wallace and felt the contact. So Wallace with his second, and Gibson to the line. He was 12 for 12 at the line in Game 4.
Did this a couple of times in Game 4, showing a lot of poise, a lot of savvy for a rookie player to learn how to use that body to draw contact. He knows that if he goes straight up, Rasheed Wallace blocks that shot.
Well, Mike Brown thought in the first 2 games of this series that his team went away from the shot blockers rather than going into them. That was not the case the other night. Cleveland went to the line 33 times, and you spoke of it. Gibson was 12 of 12, so they are now starting to try to get into the bodies of those shot blockers from Detroit.
35-29 Pistons. How about Chris Webber? Strong first half for Webber. Gibson facing a trap. Pavlovich. And Hughes resets. LeBron James sitting on the bench, getting a rest. Shot clock to 5. Good. Nice move by Drew Good.
That's only their 4th point in the paint. So we've talked about them being jump shooters tonight. Detroit has done the job with their traps. Normally Cleveland averages 40 points a game in the paint. Tonight only 4 so far.
Hughes with the steal. And pass telegraphed. Pavlovich. Larry Hughes making that play. First the steal, then the setup for Sasha Pavlovich.
Cleveland withstanding this little surge with LeBron on the bench. They get a couple of easy buckets, and now Flip Saunders is the one who's going to take the timeout. And with all this said, Doug, you talk about the points in the paint, the offensive efficiency with Detroit. They've done.
Saw them Cleveland.
Nice of the Pistons to wait to shoot until after we got all the celebrities in.
Shot clock down to 1. And it is a violation.
Well, Marv, I'm with Steve. You know, you come out of that timeout and you look at the numbers. The Pistons shooting 56%. They have 12 assists, only 4 turnovers. Out shooting Cleveland, outplaying them, and Cleveland down only 4. Mike Brown has to be very happy right now that his team is where it is with with Detroit playing so efficiently on the offensive end.
And Cleveland doing it without LeBron James. A long respite for LeBron. Here's Ilgauskas with the tip.
I think these guys like playing against each other, particularly one-on-one on the post. Each guy, I think, has the ability to go around the other. And for Ilgauskas, the same type of move that we saw Weber make.
Oh, Weber from Hamilton. 11 points for Weber. He's the high man.
See, when Weber has struggled in this series, generally it's been with Gooden or maybe Varejao on him. He struggles with the speed and quickness, but with Ilgauskas, it's a matchup that I think he's very comfortable with.
3 seconds.
Delfino with the steal off the deflection. Maximo gets inside. Pistons by 6 with just under 6 minutes to play in the first half. And Larry Hughes was trying to call for a timeout, but Bennett Salvatore did not recognize it.
Back-to-back turnovers here by Cleveland. Let's take a look here. Larry Hughes, I don't know if he steps out of bounds or he just dribbles it out of bounds, so a careless play.
Normally, Doug, when you make that little point towards the sidelines, the official knows exactly what you're talking about. He pointed twice, and Bennett did not give him the call.
Remember, Bennett was refereeing with Steve Nash against the Lakers in that situation. Remember last year in the playoffs twice when Nash dribbled on the sideline, thinking there was a timeout, none was called twice. Nash coughed it up, went into overtime, and then Kobe hit the shot to win that game. So you better make sure that you get the signal you want a timeout or somebody better call it.
But Detroit gives it back on a turnover. Ron James back on the floor, being played here by Carlos Delfino. Ilgauskas and the foul.
Cleveland's starting to get inside now. If you're Mike Brown, you've got to be happy about that. All of a sudden, your big men are getting in the paint, getting some scores. We've seen Big Z now get in there twice, get a tip in, this time an opportunity for a three-point play. And Cleveland just quietly hanging around. If Ilgauskas makes this free throw, they're down only 3.
Foul on Maxime. Three-point play for Zydrunas Ilgauskas.
Yeah, I think this is normally the time when Antonio McDyess would come back in for the final 5 minutes of the half for defensive purposes. You know, with LeBron back in the game especially, Detroit has to be aware of those high screen and rolls.
Foul committed by Hughes. So both teams are now over the foul limit. And with McDyess not available after being ejected back in the first quarter, Flip Saunders and the Pistons are fortunate that they're getting a good run here from Chris Webber.
And you know, when you think of the Cavaliers, the areas that they've been in so good all season long, look what they're down tonight on the average, almost 13 offensive rebounds tonight, only 3 second chance points down. Look at those points in the paint. So Detroit is trying to take away their strengths, but Cleveland's not going anywhere right now.
Chauncey Billups now 1 of 3 at the line. And here is Dale Davis. Talked about him earlier. This is only his second appearance in this series. Played well in game 1 in a very brief stint in the first half. Detroit 42, Cleveland 38.
And they've been up the floor almost on every made field goal and free throw. They're staying in this little trap and just trying to make Cleveland freelance.
Holding foul, says Bob Delaney, and that'll be 2 shots. Both clubs are over the foul limit. Chauncey Billups looking puzzled about the call, which is on Dale Davis. Ilgauskas to the line. You can log on to TNT Overtime on NBA.com to see if the TNT studio team can make the American Idol cut. Go behind the scenes with Ernie and Kenny on their audition with American Idol star Melinda Doolittle during her surprise visit with the guys. TNT Overtime, the basketball broadband channel that is on all the time, only on NBA.com. Saw Melinda sing the national anthem the other night in Cleveland.
Sager being part of that band, I would think that he might want to get in those tryouts.
He was at a very high level.
He was into it. There was no question about that.
Ilgauskas with the last 7 points for the Cavaliers, who are now within 2. Phillips, 9 points for Phillips. He had 18 at the half the other night, but the Pistons are getting balanced scoring. Gibson is fouled, and once again with Cavaliers in the bonus. Hamilton on the foul, that's his second. So Gibson back to the free throw line, but we're talking about it earlier, the fact that, yes, as you see the balance scoring tonight, Chauncey was able to put up points in the first half, but it might have taken his teammates out of rhythm the other night.
I think much less frenzied than he was in Game 4. It was almost as if he and Rip Hamilton had something to prove. There was so much talk over a 2-day period of, boy, the guards are struggling. They need them to be stars. We even talked about it in the beginning of our telecast, and they came out like they had something to prove tonight. Like just much more balanced, better pace. They're letting the game come to them.
Well, you look at it the other night, they had 42 points, but they took 37 shots. They were 15 for 37. There was no balance.
As Ilgauskas comes away with the rebound, Max Seal was pushed by Gooden, and the foul is called on Gooden.
It's becoming a free throw battle here. A lot of cheap fouls late in the quarter. Both teams in the penalty.
That's 3 on Gooden. Max Seal struggles at the line, only 53% during the regular season.
It's interesting. Drew Gooden has not played well in the Palace in the 2 games, and the guy who has played well is Varejao. He's in there now. He's only has 3 points on the night, but his energy and activity, and he's such an energy guy. I thought he was too hyped up at home, and maybe being on the road, he settled down a little bit and could play a little bit more under control. But I thought in the games 3 and 4, he had 8 fouls and made some fouls away from the basket that I thought that hurt his team, and just didn't make the kind of plays he normally makes.
Jason Maxiell in his second NBA season out of the University of Cincinnati, and hitting his free throws tonight. That's 3 of 4 at the line for Maxiell. Pistons back to the 4-point lead. Delfino staying with James. Varejao tries to set the pick. And here's LeBron. Rebounded by Davis. Nice pickup on the dribble by Phillips as he backpedals to keep it alive. Here's Phillips for 3. Oh, Maxiell mistimed. That would have been an explosion. However, the Pistons have the new shot clock.
Really controlling the glass again as he did in Game 4. It's 15-9 now, and Detroit doing a nice job at the offensive end on the glass as well.
Hamilton trying to get it down low to Davis.
That's one of those you got to know your personnel, who you're throwing the ball to. Dale Davis had no chance to catch that ball. It was a blind pass. And, Rip has got to be a little bit more careful with that. Maybe Rasheed could have caught that ball, maybe a Weber, but Dale Davis never saw that one coming.
Rasheed Wallace makes his return, comes on for Jason Maxiell. Maxiell leaves with 7 points. Gibson and Hughes at the guards. James, Varejao, Ilgauskas up front. We're approaching 3 minutes to go in this first half. Here's James. Yes, and it counts. LeBron James with the floater, and he will head to the line. That's 10 points for LeBron.
You see that little 1-2-2 zone, 3-2 zone, and what they do is they come up and they have Ilgauskas screen the top man, and their whole thing is, can LeBron get in the paint, and if he gets in there, either look to score, or if the defense collapses, kick out to your shooters. That time, when he got the contact, he did the smart thing and finished up with a shot. Now he has a chance for a 3-point play.
Foul committed by Hamilton. That's 3 on Hamilton.
And the guards were not collapsing on LeBron. Normally the guards pinch in at that foul line area and they force LeBron to give up the ball, but Hughes has already hit a couple of threes. Gibson obviously hot in Game 4, so that Detroit zone, the perimeter guys are a little more reluctant to come and pinch inside.
Lindsey Hunter has come on for Rip Hamilton. Tayshaun Prince is back. Prince, Wallace, and Davis up front. A 1-point Piston lead. Here's Hunter for 3. Rebounded by James. And the Cavaliers have an opportunity to reclaim the lead. Varejao off a beautiful lead pass from James. Cavaliers lead by 1.
That's just LeBron James right there, attracting all kinds of attention. Rasheed Wallace was so worried about LeBron that he forgot to cover the basket.
Wallace with a nice feed. Prince hit the bucket, but he stepped out.
Well, it's been a tough series and night for Tayshaun Prince. Looked like he finally got on the board. He's 0-3 in the game. Got a long rest there. They need him to come in and give them some production. But LeBron, you talked about it. Eyes up, head up. You run the floor, you get rewarded. The bench loves it, and they are in the lead by 1.
Welcome back to the Palace of Auburn Hills. With Cleveland being outscored in the third quarter of every game this series, Cavs coach Mike Brown says enough is enough. At halftime, instead of resting comfortably in the locker room, it'll be a furious 16 minutes. Here's what's going to happen. The two video coordinators, Bryant Moore and Steve Hexel, have been busy at work. They've been receiving messages from the Cavs bench through assistant Chris Gent. They are putting together a tape. When the 16 minutes of the halftime starts, the coaches will convene here. They will go through the tape. The players will meet in a separate room and have a players-only meeting discussing what they see on the floor. With 8 minutes to go on the clock, the two groups will convene. They will go over a pre-game scouting report and game plan. With 4 minutes to go on the clock, they are then ready to take the floor, and they are told to take it with a sense of urgency and a lot of aggression to get ready for the start of the third quarter. Mike Brown trying to change things up. Mark?
Craig with a little skit going here. You know?
Impressive.
I can hear the guys saying, all right, now get out of here.
We're trying to work.
Yes.
He didn't mention the next part. Then Cleveland comes out, misses their first 6 shots, and Detroit takes over.
And Mike Brown runs out of timeout and trying to get him in sync.
Hey, you're ruining the vignette here. Cavaliers with a 12-5 run the last 3 minutes since LeBron James made his return. Shot clock to 5. And here's James. Tips it home. LeBron on the follow. He has 13 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, a steal, and a block.
And that was on the dribble against Lindsey Hunter. Maybe the best defensive player in the league in terms of containing the dribble. Right around him.
Wallace bothered by Ilgauskas on that shot attempt. Pistons have led by as many as 8. And the Cavaliers have taken a 3-point lead. Blocking foul charge to Hughes. That'll put Phillips at the line. Foul on Hughes, his 3rd. And coming up on the T-Mobile halftime report, Ernie checking his watch, realizing that he's moments away. You see, he'll be working with that particular studio crew. Kenny Smith looking perplexed. Ernie, Charles, Kenny, and Reggie will have a look back at tonight's Game 5 between the Cavs and Pistons.
Young kids are more coachable than the crew that he works with.
I believe I saw some dissension. Kenny looked very upset. It's T-Mobile halftime report. 1:33 to go in this first half. Phillips now 2 of 4 at the line. Chauncey Phillips suffered an aggravated muscle in his thigh at the end of Game 4, but the Pistons say he is all right. Detroit with him, 1. Mike Brown going with Gibson at the point. Rookie out of Texas has been a major surprise in this Eastern Conference Final Series. Here's James. Crowd looking for a foul. They wanted a charge as Davis went down. And Hunter pulling it back. Phillips looking to post on Gibson. And Phillips over the head off the The double pump.
He's in a nice rhythm tonight. You don't have that frenetic play that Steve talked about that we saw in Game 4, even though he scored 18, in a much better rhythm. 4 of 6 from the field, 4 of 6 from the line. He has 13 points, taking care of the ball and running his team's offense.
Al Davis now defending on LeBron James. Gibson had it slapped away and fouled. Hit on a reach-in by Billups. That's the first on Chauncey.
How about Gibson goes to the line 12 times the other night. He's going to go at least 6 times now here in the first half. Not a guy who you think of in terms of somebody who's going to get to the free throw line an awful lot. More of a spot-up shooter. Only 38 free throws in 60 games during the regular season for Daniel Boobie Gibson. Says as a youngster growing up in Houston, his mom gave him the nickname because he was a little bit, he said, on the soft side. He said, when I was a little kid, I liked to play with a lot of the big guys, and I used to get beat up a lot. I'd always come home crying, and he called them Crybaby and Boobie. He said it all kind of ran together. Very self-effacing to relate the story, though.
And I'm sure Boobie's saying too much information.
Yeah, exactly.
Cavaliers back to a 1-point lead. Hunter with the pass, and the foul is called. Axiel took it to the rim, and he'll head back to the line.
Well, it's been a tough go for Detroit in terms of getting off to good starts. And Doug, you talked about this in our open. Can they put a little pressure on Cleveland? Well, they did. They got off to the nice early lead here, playing very well. But they look up at the scoreboard, they find themselves down a point. And look at the score, 51-50. I mean, this is an explosion for these two teams.
That foul called on Scott Pollard, who checked in just a moment ago, making his first appearance in this series. And how about Axiel hitting his free throws? He is now 4 of 5 at the line. Scott Pollard, a one-time Detroit Piston. A little cameo for Scott, originally a first-round pick of Detroit back in 1997.
Who drafted him?
I was getting to that. That was Doug Collins, who part of the selection process. Scott played 5 years with Sacramento, 3 with Indiana, signed as a free agent by Cleveland, and was on the floor for a couple of seconds. We're final seconds, first half. Ron trying to shake off Hunter. And time runs out in the first half. Detroit led by as many as 8. Cleveland able to come back, and at halftime, in what has to be considered a extremely high-scoring game the way this series has gone, it's a 52-51 Detroit lead. LeBron James, 13 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists. And as you see, Chauncey Billups, the high man for Detroit. Chris Webber, good first half with 11. Let's go to Craig and Chris Webber.
Well, Chris, obviously a different type of game with all these points going up there. 52-51, you're off to a good start. Talk a little bit about why you're so comfortable offensively.
Just getting touches.
Big incident late in that first quarter when we had the flagrant 2 called on Antonio McDyess. He was ejected. LeBron got a technical. How is that going to affect you guys in the second half, particularly with you having to play more minutes?
I welcome playing more minutes. That's what I want to do, but I don't want that at the hands of McDyess. Me and him are partners out here on the court, but I don't care about that. We're athletes. We're the best athletes in the world along with the other sports, so we're in shape. Hopefully they'll quit flopping and, good hard fouls won't get called as flagrants.
Thanks a lot. We'll be back with halftime. Ernie Johnson, Kenny Smith, Charles Barkley, and Reggie Miller with a T-Mobile halftime report in just a moment.
Detroit Pistons have the lead at halftime. It's 52-51 as they lead the Cavs and swing Game 5 in a 2-2 series as we welcome you to the T-Mobile halftime report from the Palace of Auburn Hills. Ernie Johnson, Kenny the Jet Smith, Charles Barkley, Reggie Miller, and the first half punctuated by the ejection of Antonio McDyess with 28 seconds to go in the first quarter for a flagrant 2 on Anderson Varejão.
From that angle, Ernie, it really looks bad. From the top angle, it didn't look as bad when you're watching the game. But that was definitely a flagrant 2, and the possible ejection, you could definitely have to take.
LeBron James gets a technical for rushing in.
I'm really glad he did that because he's the leader of this team. That reminded me what Michael Jordan used to do for the Bulls when his players got into it.
But more importantly, I'm really thinking Antonio McDyess is going to get suspended for Game 6. If you got to follow the letter of the law, I really think with Stu Jackson being in the building and what we discussed before the game, he is going to be suspended for Game 6.
Well, I don't think he will. He's going to get the benefit of the doubt because he's a great guy. Now, benefit
of the doubt on that foul?
Yes, but I'm saying if it was Ron Artest, Rasheed Wallace.
Antonio's a great guy.
He's a great guy, so I think he will get the benefit of the doubt.
He doesn't have a history, and the history, wouldn't have happened.
Robert Horry didn't have a history either of being a thug.
And also, he did technically get suspended for this game.
And there was no doubt in the minds of the officials when it came time to mete out the punishment for this one, what the call should be. Bennett Salvatore wearing a mic.
It looks to me like a flagrant 2.
I agree.
And a technical foul for LeBron for his reaction. To the technical first, then the 2, and then we give him the ball back on his side, and he's gone. And he got his head, D. Come on. What? He got his head. Oh, I got his ball. Come on.
That's good teamwork. Come on.
He said, I got the ball.
I disagree with them on giving LeBron the technical.
For the reaction that he had.
He didn't do anything. He came to the defense of a teammate.
No, I think he gave him the technical for jumping over his own teammate and then getting into it.
Varejão
over that.
Varejão didn't know he jumped over him.
All of that notwithstanding, Detroit enjoyed its biggest lead of this series, 8 points.
Got a phone call?
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Come on,
who are you
Chuck?
calling?
No, it's Kobe. He changed his mind again.
But and me without the drum, without the snare drum. How about some pictures of the first half?
Well, I think the one thing that you saw is that Detroit's bench, especially here at home, they play better. And they actually play better than Cleveland's bench. But there's not going to be far and few times when LeBron James is sitting on the bench. But when they are, they take advantage of it. Maxfield and Delfino, they come into the game and it opens things up, I think, for Weber and everyone else. Defensively, offensively, they're active. They have their hands all over the place. They're able to run the fast break. They're able to finish. And then Cleveland's a little bit disoriented when their bench is in the game on the road. We said, will their games travel on the road? I don't think so. You're trying to call a timeout. You can't even get the timeout. It goes in the other direction. So the game has not traveled for the Cleveland bench yet in the first half.
I disagree with that a little bit because Detroit had a 8-point lead. There was no LeBron, and they didn't make the lead grow. If I'm Cleveland, I got to feel really good about that stretch. But they had a 8-point lead. I was surprised Mike Brown left LeBron out as much. And for the score to be this, you got to be happy.
Yeah, from that 8-point lead, it was a 20-9 run for the Cavaliers. It's a 1-point game, and it's the highest scoring half for either side in this series. It's 52-51. We're coming back.
Welcome to the T-Mobile Halftime Report, live from the Eastern Conference Finals. T-Mobile, official wireless partner of the NBA.
They are like nothing.
You look back at particularly the second quarter, kind of disjointed. Total of 28 fouls called in the first half, but a lot of trips to that free throw line in the second quarter.
Yeah, it really kept Cleveland in the game. They were 18 of 20. And then I thought at the end of the first half there, Detroit started turning the ball over, 14 points off turnovers for Cleveland. So I think the foul line, the points off turnovers, kept them close.
And for Cleveland, Steve, it's the magical third quarter where they have had all kinds of difficulties. That goes back to the regular season, but in particular in this series, they have struggled in the third quarter.
And this will be the first time they won't have a little cushion to work with. Detroit up for the first time at halftime in the entire series. So it's going to be interesting to see how Cleveland responds. Maybe they loosen up a little bit, knowing that they're not trying to protect the league. But, the big thing is you look at the Dodge game summaries, they've got to develop some kind of a rhythm. Get LeBron James moving, maybe off the ball, get some ball movement, and try to get some kind of a flow.
46% from the field for the Cavs on 15 of 33. James with 13 points, along with 7 rebounds, 5 assists, and Detroit 53%. And the high point men, Chauncey Billups with 13 and Chris Webber with 11. Let's go over to Craig Sager. Craig?
Well, Mike Brown said they're getting far too many easy baskets. When Detroit's getting the ball in the middle, they're not sinking and filling, trying to help out from the backside. He said too many offensive rebounds as well for Detroit. They had 6 in the first half. As for the 1-2-2 trap that gave him so much problems at certain points in Game 4, he said they worked on that. They're ready to attack it. Whenever they see that trap, they're going full speed in attack mode.
It is Detroit ball as this third quarter gets underway. Billups and Hamilton in the backcourt with Wallace, Prince, and Webber up front. Here's Billups for 3. Chauncey Billups shooting very well. 5 for 7. 16 points.
I've felt like all series he's been sped up. I mean, Cleveland has really kind of pushed him to a point where he hasn't been his normal, reliable self. It looks like he's just a little more calm tonight, a little more at ease with his rhythm.
Pavlovich off the mark, but rebounded by Good.
One thing to watch here is where are Cleveland shots coming from? Are they all perimeter? That's what's gotten them in trouble in the past. So we're going to see what their shot selection looks like.
Here's Good. Rebounded by Billups.
Can't complain about the possession. A lot of ball movement. They end up with a wide open shot.
Prince from Webber and a foul. Nice setup from Webber. The foul on Hughes, and that's 4 on Hughes.
Once again, we've got a quick start here for Detroit. That's been the theme of this entire series. Look at the numbers for Cleveland in the third quarter. Remember, that's 4 quarters combined, 33%, 4 assists per quarter, 4.5 turnovers. So it's just been a real struggle. And usually it's been Detroit's defense that has really caused a lot of that problem. They're picking up full court and taking Cleveland out of their comfort zone.
And Marv asked Mike Brown in the before the game, said, do you think it becomes psychological? He said, no, I don't think so. I disagree a little bit. I think it does. When you start feeling the pressure of making shots in the third quarter, you have open shots and you don't make them. You read the newspapers, you hear all that's going on about these third quarter struggles.
Particularly with the scrutiny that takes place during an Eastern Conference final, you may get away with people not realizing the third quarter problems during the regular season. There's James trying to go glass. Good on the follow.
Well, that's what they've lived on all season long. They were the #1 offensive rebounding team in the league at almost 13 a game. They averaged over 15 points a game, and they've been very quiet the last 3 ball games on the offensive boards.
Prince backing his way on Hughes. Hamilton for 3. Rebounded by Prince, and he puts it home. Tayshaun Prince with a free throw a moment ago, and that's his first bucket of the night.
That's the problem with the double team coming from Ilgauskas. It takes away everybody's rebounding responsibilities because the defense is now scrambling on rotations.
Hughes passed on a 3, not able to hit the 2, and it's controlled by Hamilton. Prince from downtown. Tayshaun Prince scores in the first half, has put up 6 points here the first 2.5 minutes of the third quarter. It leads to a Cavalier timeout as the Pistons open up the third with a 9-2 advantage, and Mike Brown with the early timeout. Global Sports. Last year's NBA Rookie of the Year, Chris Paul of the Hornets. The Dominator, Detroit Red Wing goaltender Dominik Hasek. And there is Thomas Hitman Hearns. And Hall of Famer Chuck Daly, head coach of 2 Detroit Pistons championship teams.
Chuck, the originator of the Jordan rules. I wonder if he's thinking about maybe some LeBron rules here, watching the Pistons try to take care of LeBron James.
Well, Cleveland just 1 of 5 from the field here at the start of the third quarter. Detroit has come out and hit 3 of 4. Sparked by Tayshaun Prince.
Well, let's see if they can get something going to the basket. Maybe get to the foul line. Their only basket here has really been on a second chance rebound by Goodman.
Ilgauskas
Very good. Get it in the paint, get something easier, get to the foul line. That's a nice play out of the timeout by Mike Brown.
Pistons 61, Cavaliers 55. This is game 5 of this best of 7 Eastern Conference Final. They're tied at 2 apiece. Weber lost it. Mike Brown telling us that we have to be more aggressive when we come out in the third. And Ilgauskas looking for the shot, drew the foul. It is on Weber. That's 3 on Weber. Zydrunas will head to the line.
I like that move for Ilgauskas. He's relied so much on that little jump hook from the foul line area where he's getting pushed out. And he's got to have that counter where he turns back to the baseline. And he's such a great free throw shooter that if he can draw Weber into the air, all he's got to do is throw his body into him. You'll see right here, Weber really waiting for that hook. There's the counter, a little pump fake, and just throw your body into him. Get the ball inside, get to the foul line, try to get some easy hoops, and that's the way to avoid those third quarter troubles.
Cavaliers 19 of 21 at the foul line. Ilgauskas hitting on all 4 of his attempts. 61-56, Detroit. Early third quarter. Prince with the step. Tayshaun Prince with 8 points, all here in the third.
Well, that's the play they like to run to get that switch. And Larry Hughes with the foul trouble is not going to be able to handle him down there. They're going right to Prince, and he's the one that has it going now in the third quarter after struggling in the first half.
Shot clock down to 5. Ilgauskas. This is not pretty. Pavlovich fires. Nearly hit. Tayshaun Prince with the last 8 points for the Pistons. Now guarded by Pavlovich. And again, goes baseline, lost it, and last touch by Pavlovich.
I would go back to that same play they've been running, run the little screen roll that Prince set the pick. If they switch it and drop that ball in the post to him, it's been working for them here in this period.
Phillips for Prince. Rebounded by Prince. And he thought he was fouled. Shot clock down to 7. Burton came up short. Cavaliers get back. Hamilton met by Pavlovich. Here's Hamilton.
A little deep on that attempt.
Yeah.
That's a play that Hamilton loves to make, but normally when the post man is down on the block, Weber really didn't have great position. That resulted in really a long attempt for Hamilton.
James off the mark, bothered from behind on that cut attempt. Wallace setting the screen. Weber. And James able to get to it. Opportunity here for the Cavaliers. Pistons have gone cold. Here's James. And he is fouled by Weber.
See, I like when he does that. You can't stop him. Once he gets that little step ahead of you, those shoulders in front of you, now if you just go right through that big guy, and he's so strong, he has the ability to jump in, and watch him. He's going to create the contact here, and then he's going to hang and come down and almost get the three-point play. I mean, that takes superior upper body strength to be able to make a play like that.
That was 4 on Weber. He is replaced by Jason Maxiell, and here's where the departure of Antonio McDyess hurts the Pistons. Cliff Saunders now going with combinations of Maxiell and Dale Davis for Chris Weber.
And interesting, Rasheed Wallace also goes to the bench. And this is normally a time when you'd expect Detroit to start to go into Wallace a little bit on the block. We saw some early activity from Rasheed offensively, but not much since. So look for Detroit to really rely on that perimeter trio of Prince, Billups, and Hamilton here. offensively. Maybe Hamilton gets going on those curl screens.
Antonio McDyess ejected late in the first quarter for a flagrant 2 as he took down Anderson Varejao. Foul is called. It's in the axe of Bennett Salvatore. That's 3 on Ilgauskas. So Hamilton to the line. Rip Hamilton has been quiet. He has 7 points, but all came in the first quarter.
Well, you remember now in game 1 he was 11 of 21, had 24 points. 22 of those were in the first 3 quarters when the Pistons were really struggling. He kept them afloat. And then Billups and Rasheed Wallace combined for 19 of the 23 points in that fourth quarter when they won. But I think Pavlovich, and I've talked about this before, has done a good job of adjusting to the speed of Rip Hamilton. I thought it was a big culture change for him to go from Vince Carter in the New Jersey series to Rip Hamilton in game 1. I think he's got a little bit better handle on him defensively now.
Rip does have 5 assists, along with 9 points. 7-point lead for the Pistons. For the Cavaliers, this is their first trip to the conference finals in 15 years. Only the 3rd time in franchise history after 1976 and 1992. Pavlovich for 3. Sasha Pavlovich hits from downtown to bring the Cavs within 4.
We're seeing tremendous resiliency by Cleveland. Looks like they're getting ready to get put onto the canvas, and they just keep fighting back.
Hamilton. Maxiel gets to it. It's slapped away. And here comes Hughes, but pulls it back. And then leads LeBron, but that pass too deep.
You can put a guy at point guard. That doesn't mean he is a point guard. Larry Hughes, we've seen that several times in this series. Errant lob passes, just you don't have an angle for.
Phillips kicks it back out. Hamilton. Rebounded by Ilgauskas, and he is walloped by Davis.
See, now the big men from Cleveland can be very aggressive when Billups and Rip Hamilton come off screens, because Dale Davis and Maxiel really are only going to roll and catch dunks. So you can really show up big. It's the play that Steve, you were talking about the lob, and it looked like his hand maybe went up there through the rim. That's how you split your finger sometimes if that rim catches you. But very fortunately, he was able to stay away from any kind of injury there that would have forced him to go out maybe with a laceration.
It's a 4-point Detroit lead. 5 minutes and 15 seconds to go in this 3rd quarter. For the Cavaliers, one of their better performances in the 3rd. Offensive foul called on Ilgauskas. Called for the illegal screen.
That's always a concern on that little dribble handoff play. The big man has to be set. Otherwise, it's almost an automatic call from the officials.
That's 4 on Ilgauskas. He's replaced by Varejao.
Let's watch the left hip. Just a little bit. And not going to give the offense any advantage on that play.
Hughes playing with the 4 fouls. They clear it out for Tayshaun Prince. Defensive 3-second violation is called on the Cavaliers.
Well, Prince has had a lot of success now in the 3rd quarter, just on that little post up or a little clear out play. So now everybody on the weak side for Cleveland very aware of Prince's presence and his threat. And you just got to look at your feet. I mean, you just can't get caught 3 straight seconds in there.
Phillips not able to convert the technical. He's 4 of 7 at the line, and Rip Hamilton is 5 for 5. However,
now normally those guys are like 89-90% free throw shooters. That's why in close games it's so hard to beat Detroit, because those guys have the ball in their hands and they're great free throw shooters.
Shot clock to 5. Phillips from way downtown.
That's a bad possession there. That's giving Cleveland every opportunity to hang around here right now.
Here's James backing Prince. Gets inside off the spin and scores.
I've been saying it all series, that's where he can make the most improvement in his game. I mean, he's so big and strong, you can't keep him out of the lane, but he's got to develop a touch, putting it off the glass like he did there. If he gets that shot down, forget it.
Shot clock to 6. Prince got it inside. Davis gives it right back. Prince with a long three-point attempt.
See, the Detroit big men aren't a threat to score in there, so they can be very aggressive on the perimeter right now. Make them throw that ball into the post.
And here's James for Varejao. Nicely done, and the game is tied at 65. Flip Saunders takes a timeout.
Now, I'm not sure why Rasheed Wallace is on the bench right now. I mean, he's got 2 fouls. He went to the bench with 5 or 6 minutes to go, but you're right, Doug. No offensive threat on the front line for the Pistons.
12-4 run by the Cavaliers. All right, Craig and Chris Webber sitting it out after picking up a 4th foul. The Cavaliers are on their way to their best third quarter of this series. They have outscored the Pistons now 14-3, led by Tayshaun Prince. Cavaliers opened up with a 9-2 run, but since then, I should say the Pistons opened up with a 9-2 run. Since then, the Cavs have outscored the Pistons 12-4, and the game is tied.
And Marv, I think you got to get this guy right back in the game. You've got to go to him. He got off to a very good start. Rasheed, he had 8 points since that point in time. He's been very quiet. He's been in and out of the game. I think he's the difference maker for this team. I think if he doesn't come alive here, they're going to be in for a dogfight down the stretch.
Daniel Gibson has checked in for the Cavs. Varejao coming over the top, called for the foul. Cavaliers' 3rd team foul. Pistons have 4. Detroit with the backcourt of Phillips and Hamilton up front. Maxeel with Wallace and Prince. Gibson defending on Phillips. Hamilton able to spin away to free himself up.
Boy, that's a beautiful move. There's so much length on Hamilton in this series, and you talked about it, Doug. Pavlovich doing a nice job. He's challenging Hamilton's shot, so he's got to start utilizing that pump fake a little bit more, I think.
Pistons with that first field goal in 5.5 minutes. Crowd wanted to travel on Gooden, and that shot way off. Phillips with the save, and he's fouled. Pushed by Gooden.
And you see LeBron James, he looked at him and he said, just shoot the jump shot. Don't drive in there and make it a more contested shot. This is what you teach young guys. Learn how to pivot. Look at Rip. He keeps that pivot foot down. There's two guys trapping him. And watch just what happens. He ends up splitting it right, steps right through him with a nice easy shot. That's just a nice fundamental basketball play.
2.5 remaining in the third. Pistons with a 2-point lead. Phillips putting moves on Gibson. And a defensive 3 is called again against Cleveland.
Lack of attention to detail. Steve talked about it a while ago. You got to get in there and you know you got to get out. So there's no reason to be standing in that lane. The referees are watching, and especially anytime there's an isolation play. Phillips was isolated to go against Daniel Gibson, so the referees are going to be watching away from the basketball.
This time Rip Hamilton shot the free throw.
And here's the call here on Marshall. Just gets caught in the middle of the lane. And at some point, you just have to jump outside the lane. You can get right back in.
Varejao defending on Wallace. Prince digging and stops. The reverse slam by Tayshaun Prince.
How's the wingspan? Oh my God. Did he get that all the way on the other side of the hoop?
10 points for Prince all here in the third quarter. Varejao rejected by Maxeel. Phillips to the fadeaway. And Varejao tips it to Marshall. Coming up on a minute to play. in the third. Cavaliers trailing by 5. LeBron James setting things up. Shot clock to 5. James slapped out. Last touch by Wallace.
Well, Steve, you talked about the long arms. How about the ability also to have big hands and be able to palm this basketball and take it to the other side? Look at that. So it's an unbelievable advantage. You can palm the basketball. You have this huge wingspan, and you can take the ball to the other side of the rim and dunk the basketball. That was just a beautiful play by Tayshaun Prince.
Damon Jones back in, coming on for Sasha Pavlovich. Prince doing a good job on James. Off the head fake. Here's LeBron. 19 points for LeBron James, although he has not shot well. 7 of 19 from the field. Pistons now lead 70-67. Here's Wallace for 3. Rebounded by Marshall. And about a 1.5 second differential between the game clock and shot clock.
And if they use the clock right here, they're going to be down only 1 possession, or if they get a 3, possibly tied. So the third quarter goes by, and if they're going to be in this position, they're sitting well for the fourth quarter.
Gibson for 3, yes! With 1 second left in the third. That will not count. The Cavaliers with their best third quarter of this Eastern Conference Final Series as they outscore the Pistons 19-18, and the game is tied at 70.